period of 3 years, we transformed a traditional financial shared services operation into a next-gen GBS, building strategic capabilities alongside transactional services, while concurrently driving the group digital transformation. We did this leveraging leadership buy-in and running it in a different way. Over that period, we've already delivered 500 million rand in benefits from our digital initiatives and transformed our shared service function into a GBS that moves from back office into center office, becoming a strategic partner for the organization. I'm Kershen Pillay. I'm the Director of Global Business Solutions for Distell Group. This function was established over a period of time, and I'll explain to you what made it a successful transformation for us. But before I do that, I don't think many of you will know Distell, so I'll give you a bit of context. Distell is an alco-bev company based out of South Africa, multi-category, focusing on wine, spirits, and ready-to-drinks, which include ciders. We've a strong South African history. The business is over 100 years old. We're the largest wine, spirits, and cider producer in Africa, and we're the second largest cider producer in the world. We have about 4,500 employees across the globe. Those numbers are a little old at time of print. Our F22 results are out, so I can at least share a bit of that. Our revenue is now over 37 billion rand. In 22, we showed 18% revenue growth, 37% headline earnings growth against F21. F21 was a rebased year back to pre-COVID levels. We have 4 wineries, 9 African offices, 8 distilleries, 5 international offices, and 3 Scotch whisky distilleries based in Europe. So when we set out to build this GBS, we had a vision. We built based on the concept of a platform play, customer-centric, digitally enabled, driven by predictive insights to drive not just cost efficiency, but growth for the organization. That was a fundamental shift in thinking from the traditional view. So we focus on experience, insights, and speed. As it stands, the capabilities that sit within our GBS function, shared services, which is a traditional financial shared services with a bit of a twist. So we've got procure to pay, hire to retire, end user computing, and then we transformed the order to cash function into a customer interaction center. One point of call for our customers sits within our shared services center. Next, we've got IT, which now includes digital ownership, so digital strategy ownership. So in there is applications, infrastructure, automation, and the rest of your normal IT capabilities. We run data analytics, which is a new capability for the organization, building out advanced analytics, data science capabilities within that space. Record to report, which does budgeting, costing and profitability, as well as statutory reporting. And then we've got a strategic transformation office. Because of the vision we set out, we needed to establish a capability that helps transform the business, not just deliver services. So the journey's been over a period of time. Pre-2016, our shared services didn't exist. It was disaggregated across various functions in the organization, predominantly based at distribution centers, regional offices, the normal starting point of any of these. The first step in 2016 was the establishment of the Hive. That is a brand I'll talk to you again about in a second. That was the first shared service center for the organization, order to cash, procure to pay, hire to retire. Dare I say, not as effective as we'd have liked, not a great reputation in the organization, not a lot of buying, both from the top and the organization itself. In 2019, we went through an organizational restructure, and we redesigned the strategy of Distell. With that came the establishment of a corporate services function. That function was given the mandate to take the shared service center, strip out IT, build the new data analytics capability, build a strategic transformation office, and evolve that into what is now a GBS. In March 2021, we named it GBS. We elevated the Hive brand to be beyond shared services and include these elements. So we took a brand which was meant to create trust in the organization that didn't do it. Instead of throwing it away and coming up with a new one, we leveraged it and we changed the perception of the organization and actually elevated that to the brand that encapsulates the entire GBS function for us. And then, obviously, there's plans to extend this beyond, and we'll talk maybe a little later if there's any questions about what that extension could mean. So the big thing here was the transformation and what it took to transform into a GBS. And there's a couple of points. We always talk about back office to center office. That's important. You'll see in our naming convention was very deliberate. We dropped services. We've transformed from services to solutions. And that's why the GBS, in our term, talks about global business solutions. We deliver solutions for the organization, with the organization, which might result in us running certain transactional services for that function. But the term services in our context creates levels. It creates subservience to the business. I think one of the speakers mentioned the issue of referring to the business earlier. The function is part of the business. So this is a big part of what we did. And the point about leadership buy-in, which I'd like to talk to today, is it's not just getting a mandate. It's actually making sure that this GBS build is part of your group strategic imperative. You have leadership buy-in, and you drive it with a different type of leadership, and you build trust across the organization. So what does being part of the strategic imperative mean? For us, it meant we wanted to build a future-fit Distell. Part of that was creating this GBS capability. Building GBS was a strategic initiative. Beyond that, the GBS owns the digital transformation strategy of the organization. We own the shift to becoming insights-driven in the organization. And we built a mandate to drive customer experience into the organization and across functions. That is a fundamental difference about the way we went about talking about strategy in our environment. This doesn't come easily. Strategy is a very sensitive topic in a lot of organizations. Where is it owned? Who drives it? What does it mean? The point about this is not about ownership. It's not about credit. It's actually about delivery. Right? And in order to do that, leadership is critical. We talk about leadership buy-in, and that starts with the mandate set by the CEO to do this. On the board's agenda was the GBS build, the investment in capabilities that had previously lagged in our organization, digital, data, advanced data science capabilities, data engineering and architecture. Those were capabilities we built, agile capabilities, not just within GBS, but across the organization. That came from the CEO and the board. The other point was the director of the GBS is a C-suite member. I sit on the ExCo. I drive this agenda with the other executives in the organization. Not for them, not despite them, but with them. And it's important. The third point at the top talks about buy-in from the other executives, the rest of your C-suite. Because getting a mandate from the CEO does not automatically give you buy-in from the rest. And that's an important one to build, especially when it comes to trust. And I'll get to trust a little bit later. The other points around leadership is breaking down hierarchy. In the function that we run, we've broken down hierarchy and we focus on breaking down silos. In order to do that, We try and break down silos within the function so that we engage with the rest of the business as one GBS. We don't engage with them as IT or data analytics. We go to them as a GBS function to find solutions for challenges they're facing or opportunities they might have to capitalize on. The other point is about being networked and integrated. So our organization sits and works within the business with functions where it makes sense. So if we have one of our business units, for example, we have a sales and marketing and distribution business unit for Southern Africa. So you have a managing director, he has an executive team that drives that business unit. I've got one of my leadership that sit in that executive team and build strategy with that function. That business unit is fully integrated with my GBS capabilities. And the reason for that is we cannot try and drive control from a top-down approach in this environment. And that that helps break down silos. So being integrated within the business is very important in driving this. The last point is about empowerment. Empowerment of the GBS and empowerment of the business units. We do not drive decision-making at one point. We empower the people at the point where it's required to make decisions and execute on those decisions. So capabilities are deployed where needed to help make decisions, build strategy, and then execute that without too much red tape, if I can put it that way. So we don't try and drive tight pipelines to execute some of these. We try and deliver it in an agile way with the business. And then trust. I think trust is probably one of the most critical elements to become a successful GBS function. You need trust within the GBS function and within the business, external to the GBS. To build trust within the GBS function, you need to have alignment with this new vision that you set out for the function. It is a difficult shift to make from service orientation to solution orientation. People battle to do that because they've previously been measured based on how willing they are to help. Sometimes that means saying no for the greater good of the organization. So that alignment to the new vision is important. Empowering the people within the GBS so that they can run. It's the people with the knowledge, the skills, the expertise that actually can help make decisions faster, quicker, and deliver it. Empowering them to do that and letting them go is an important part of building trust. Investment. I think in our function over the last 3 years, despite COVID and the impact on the alcohol industry in South Africa in particular, where similar to the airlines, we were shut down. We weren't allowed to produce for periods of the lockdown. We definitely weren't allowed to sell alcohol. Our revenue went down to zero at points in the lockdown. We maintained our employment. We continued to invest in digital and capability buildings, in particular the GBS. It allowed us to ramp up, build stronger capabilities, and come out firing, which is why I mentioned those results at the start of this. The measure of a successful GBS is a measure of the performance of the business, not an individual KPI for your function. Collaboration, like I said, it's not about just collaboration. It's about joint ownership, joint delivery. We deliver initiatives led by the business or led by the GBS. Always business-owned outcomes. The delivery will always be for that business. We also need to embrace failure. That has been something that's probably held back shared services because it's transactional. You measured on your effectiveness in a shared service. When you get to GBS, there's still experimentation, there's digital initiatives that will fail and must fail. And I think building that culture of failure, which someone mentioned earlier, is important. And then lastly, for internal, you need a strong brand. Our brand is the Hive. The Hive stands for our GBS. It's something people feel they can belong to. And because we're building unique capabilities in this, we need an identity to allow them to act differently to the rest of the organization. That's why we've done that. It's why we've put solutions in the name, not services. The brand has grown beyond a shared service function. Across the rest of the organization, in order to build trust, you need to do a few things. And the first thing is, you need to change, and you need to demonstrate the change within your function. And you need to be transparent about the shortcomings. And that's what we did. The starting point was to say, here's our weakness. As a GBS, or corporate services, shared service function, it doesn't matter. Here's our weakness, here's what we're working on. Understand that we'll continue to work on this. That was the starting point. The next point was, here's how we can help you transform your area and help the business move forward. That is important in creating the right clarity of the role between a GBS and a function. I think a lot of people get stuck in trying to figure out who owns something. And the reality is, we focus on the business. What's good for the business is good for us, is good for you. And that's how we engage with the organization. And that is a critical part about building trust. We are not we've not focused on trying to create a view of how good the delivery has been. We haven't been driving branding post the initial launch. We allow that to be driven by the organization and the people that engage with the function and the customers. Customers tell the organization how well we function. And then obviously delivery is important. So the best way to build trust is to deliver some of your initiatives, solutions quickly, effectively, and make an impact, not just a technical delivery. And like I said, being involved in strategy development, delivering solutions for organizations really transforms the way the business views this type of capability. So at the end, what does that mean? I think the challenge to you would be, when you think about that transformation, the points that ring in my head are you actually playing a strategic business partnering function for long-term solutions, not just short-term transactional goals? Are you influencing the strategy and empowering the organization to deliver on that strategy? And is it transparent, and are you accountable for that strategy? I think those are the three key messages that I would ask myself if you want to go down that journey of transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring and lots of good details. And I like how so much of your story is based on the way you work and not just a lot of facts and stats from your center. And while we have questions coming in via the code, please, it's open for everybody. Maybe I can have the privilege of asking one of my questions, the whole trust topic. To what degree can you actually build it and earn it, and to which degree should it also be given to you with top management commitment, really trusting you to go out there and get it done?
Very good question. I think it's twofold. Trust does come down, and I think this is where it comes to leadership buy-in. Getting the mandate from the CEO and the board already instills trust in not just the person mandated to build and run it, but also the capability as a whole. So just that notion, and the business seeing on the agenda of the organization GBS capability investment, builds and creates trust. The earning of trust comes from how you engage with the organization and delivering consistently. And I think that's the starting point, is you can sell a great story around what a GBS can offer for an organization, but until you deliver something, it's just words on a page.
I have to show by doing, yeah?
Yeah.
It's actually nicely related to the first question we have coming in here. How do you ensure that you're not being looked at as an internal vendor within the organization? I mean, sometimes we even hear this notion of the second-tier citizen, right? You're just the back office. How do you do that?
Two things I think are important. It's one of the reasons we drop services from the name to solutions, so that we don't come across as that. The second is we do not directly charge functions, so there's no charge out to our countries or functions. We allocate cost below the line which we measure that function on. So for the South Africa business, they'll get an allocation of our cost to run below their EBIT, which is what their metric of measurement is. So you do not have the internal battle between functions.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. That's a clear advice, I think. There is also a great acknowledgement coming in here from the audience saying it's great to hear a GBS leader actually sitting with the C-suite. I think that's also a good advice. But would you do anything different if you would start this journey again?
I'd ask for a bigger budget. I'm pretty happy with the way we've gone. I think the starting point, when we started this journey, we ensured that all C-suite had digital transformation on their performance KPIs, so that it wasn't one area driving digital and it was shared. I think I would do the same if I had to go back for capability building in the organization, which includes the GBS, because we could not build a GBS in isolation without the business units that we work with. And that's where the tension points come in, because as you deliver something new, you've got to transform the way a function operates. And that change, at that point, you actually need both parties sort of vested in that change.
Yeah, that's clear. And I think it ties into our last question that we will be able to cover in terms of the failure that addresses safety. And when you're trying something new, you need people to feel safe. How did you build that permission to fail?
I think we essentially split that out. There's certain things, unfortunately, you shouldn't allow for failure. And I'll be honest about it. There's transactional areas that need to deliver. You want to minimize failure in those spaces. But what we build is support structures to help improve on where failure is. So in those areas, that's what we do. And where we drive new digital initiatives, we almost earmark the initiatives that you're allowed to fail in. Because you start small for the purpose of figuring out if it's going to work. And if it fails, you take the learning and you move forward. And I think earmarking the ones that we know might or might not succeed and allowing those teams to run at it hard, knowing that the outcome might not be what we want, is the best way to start that culture of failure. Because you can't do it broad-based off.
No, but you put up some sort of guardrails.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for sharing your story.
Thank you.
It was truly inspirational, and I'm sure there will be lots of people coming up to you and asking for more details when we are heading out for lunch. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.